Glory 93.9 FM. The best mix of traditional, classic, country, contemporary, and Caribbean gospel in New Providence, Bahamas.
The thoughts, views, and comments expressed on this show are not necessarily those of the management, ownership, or production of Glory 93.9 FM.
Today can be the turning point in your life by making a simple decision.
Fundamental questions of navigation. Where am I? Where am I going? And how do I get there from here?
I invite the leaders of our planet to ask themselves these three questions before they make any crucial decisions.
But if you don't make decisions, you're going to stay right where you are.
We are all map makers.
We are in a time of transition.
If we're going to change, we have to change the direction that we're going.
Our planet needs leaders who know where they want to go.
When we change the direction we're going, then we want to make sure we're going in the right direction.
Leaders who can see the big picture.
Because if we're not, we're going to either go backwards or we're going to stay where we are.
Recognizing the psychological and the spiritual shifts and changes that need to be made, often from the inside to the outside.
To be able to shape your future, you have to be willing and able to change your paradigm.
Complex journeys require navigation. The path to the truth is one such journey. This is your GPS. Hairstyling services provided by J.D. Edwards Salon and Spa, Palmdale Shopping Plaza, Madera Street. Accessories provided by Chevette Williamson Jewelry. Standout jewelry for standout women. Wardrobe provided by Bahari Bahamas. Visit shopbahari.com.
And good morning, everyone, and welcome to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM. I am your host, Michelle Malcolm, and it's a pleasure to be in your company today. I feel so well rested, y'all. Thank God for that little holiday, eh? Man, I had a restful weekend. Of course, I did attend church on Friday and again on Sunday, and it was such a blessing, such a powerful experience there at Bible Truth Ministries. But apart from that, I spent the weekend entirely resting. And, well, not entirely. I rested, but I also worked while I rested, if that makes any sense. But but it was good to have those couple of days off. Thank God for holidays. Chance to rejuvenate and regenerate and, catch yourself a little bit. So back in the saddle, today's show is going to be an interesting one. We're going to be talking to a professional young Bahamian who is going to help us break this topic down. And it's kind of interesting because he and I first started talking about this a couple of weeks ago. But, timing didn't permit until now for us to come together to do this particular show. So I am calling this show The Black Tax. That's right. The show is called The Black Tax. And the person who's going to help us break this down is a young man who is very much involved in teaching wallet security and financial growth with cryptocurrencies. His name is, now obviously his parents were a big fan of this particular actor, Omar Sherief West. For those of you old enough to know who Omar Sherief is, clearly they were a fan of his. So this young man is Omar Sherief West, and he's been talking to me about this, about doing this show for a couple of weeks now, and finally have an opportunity to bring him into the studio. So, Omar, welcome to GPS.
Thank you for having me, Miss Malcolm.
Now, I need you to pull that microphone closer to you.
Okay.
So that we can make sure that I need you to put that as close. Yeah, come closer to the microphone so that people can hear you. Go. All right. Still closer. Pull it closer to you. Okay. We want to make sure that we hear everything that you have to say.
All
okay.
Right, there we go.
All right. So Omar is with us in studio today to talk about the black tax. Now, I know what you're saying out there. Some of you who've never heard of the black tax, you're saying, what in the world is Michelle talking about today? What is the black tax? Interestingly enough, it means different things in different places. But yet somehow they all trickle back down to the same thing. And that's what I found fascinating. So before we dive into the conversation with Omar, Let's take a look at what the black tax means from the African American perspective. Let's go to clip number 1.
The black tax, an additional financial strain or heavy burden placed. The black tax, an additional financial strain or heavy burden placed on Black Americans by people and institutions who have conscious and or unconscious anti-Black bias. Conscious or unconscious. There is an incremental cost that we pay as citizens just for who we are. Higher mortgage rates, higher rates on auto loans, just for who we are. And by the way, this is a cost that's put on us because of who people think we are, not who we are. How did we get here? How do 40 million African Americans wind up owning just 2% of U.S. wealth after 400 years? 400 years. How is it that at the same time that 4 million former slaves were denied 40 acres and a mule, that a law was passed to distribute 246 million acres to 1.5 million white families? There was a cost to being Black in America, a tax in the form of discrimination, in housing, in education, and in the labor market over the last 150 years. And how has that tax reduced our ability to leave a legacy? And what's the residual impact that it has on us today? And what can you do to reverse the damage? We have 6 million less jobs, 1.4 million less businesses, 1 trillion less in revenue, $8 trillion less in wealth than we otherwise should have within our community. I think you'd agree that it's time for a change.
All right, so Omar has done quite a bit of research on this topic, which has led us here today. And I want you to understand that even though that clip that we started with looks at it from the American perspective, we are also going to be bringing it home here to the Bahamas. So Omar, tell us about the research that you've done and how you sort of stumbled across this information.
Well, again, good morning to you, and good morning to the Bahamas. I am honored to be here to speak about this subject. How I came across this research, I being a Bitcoin security, wallets and teaching Bahamians, I've been teaching Bahamians that for about 3 years now. I found that in proportioning your wealth or diversifying your portfolio, I found that I experience bias in some ways online, and I experience not being the one getting the effect for my efforts for whatever reason. And then I came across a video that highlighted the cost of the black tax. This is from segregation period or the Jim Crow laws, and it gave expansive data in terms of the 4 million slaves that came from Africa, and they were brought to America, or Native Americans that were brought from there here to the islands of the Bahamas. And we can say we have this Well, that has been 400 years. I mean, why you guys don't just let that go? I mean, you've had generations and at least 5 generations in 400 years or more to come back out of that. I think you're complaining too much, and the data just says that there's a subconscious and a conscious um, action that has been taken. Some people or most people don't even feel like they're putting their foot on the minority or the group of minority, but specifically here, black. Uh, and so that is what I came up with most, and that expands from 1865 right up to the period of the Title IX and with civil rights and the insides of that, inside workings of that.
So let's go from the beginning, as you would have discovered from 1865. What would have happened then, progressing? Obviously, it's only a 2-hour show, so we're not talking detail by detail by detail, but an overview of, for those who are not familiar with what happened. I need us to make this as simple as we can for everybody to understand. So, what took place in 1865, and let's bring that forward to today as to why we are where we are at now.
So I have to establish first that when we're talking about how America was built, at that time, we didn't, us being black, we didn't have a right to own or to have a right to say or make a change. So that would mean that you were brought here to build the land, and we have to weigh the GDP or the wealth and building of America from such a time. And so this is now where
and not just America.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when we talk about that structure was put in, we're talking about at least 4 million slaves. So 4 million slaves brought in, long story short, to build America. And those 4 million slaves, we have to go to what America has become upwards of 1865. And then when we equate that to what the data says in terms of wealth, that right there is about $7 trillion. So now when we touch the 1865 period, we find that there's been some changes in the world. Europe is now slackening on their stance on what slavery means and how it is being acted out upon. Other countries followed suit, but America at that time still wanted to be a stronghold, and of course they just came out of World War II. So you talk about full 100% tax, and that's where we get into the 1865 period of okay, you want emancipation, okay, celebrate. You can leave my yard now because you're free, but you're going to be charged by the now police and a stricter Jim Crow law that's going to say, where do you live? And ask you, what do you have and why are you in the street? So you're going to be arrested for vagrancy, meaning you're going to have to go right back to choice of master or a former slave at the time. And you're going to borrow basically everything. Plus you're going to be funded for food, a living space. And at that time, cotton was very popular. So having a land and your mule that you're supposed to get, which we know didn't happen. The 40 acres and a mule did not happen. So you still, after the Jim Crow laws in effect, you still had to go and do some work while you were so-called free. And this is the separate but equal act that was taken into the federal court at 1869, which made white planters of this so-called cotton wanted to implement us into a system of education which would make us good workers for in terms of their crop planting, factories, and all of this is a 100% tax. So even if, as a black person, if I wanted to stand against that, then there's a law for that. You cannot you cannot be on a planter's land. He's fronting you everything. He's feeding you. He's giving you a place to live, because once Emancipation Day come, black people still don't own anything. So there were some slave masters at the time who would give black uh, black people or black workers land to start to crop on for their own. And so um, you could go against this if you want as a black person and say, well, I don't want to work for you. Well, and you would go to jail. And then of course, the Jim Crow laws would strengthen on you again. This called convict leasing. So when we talk about the South now, South Carolina, Alabama at the time, these states made more money in their local resources just off convict leasing. And convict leasing is when you're arrested for Jim Crow tightening laws, and you are leased right back out to your former slave owner or private corporation. And that's what 100% tax means. And at this point, your life expense could be at a 50% chance of loss, because if you are free, the slave master or the owner of your function, he has an investment in you staying alive. Once you break the so-called Jim Crow laws, these people don't have no life expectancy on you, and you can just be leased, and they need to know what you can do within 6 months, or you could be killed.
Mm-hmm. And so, how do we bring that home here to the Bahamas? Because I know a lot of people are listening to this and probably saying, "What does this have to do with us?" How do we make the connection between what happened in the United States with what you just described and life in the Bahamas for enslaved persons?
That's a great question. At this time, which would be 1869, I think this is the time now when Sir Lyndon O and Mr. Folks were still dealing with the high-end oppression of the structure what UBP had in place, which ownership of all of Bay Street, ownership of all of most of the land, and what we needed at that time was a big change in how the structures were. And what we have to understand is at this time at UBP, there was marches, there was Burma Road riot, and there was a lot of chaos over the hill. And the jobs that were given at that time were for like the nightclubs or a very selected few who had taxis or hotel industry, because that's what UBP really pumped in at the time. And this is where you get the stories of the kids jumping off of the ship for quarters. So this atmosphere needed a change. And this is where even in the history, Martin Luther King Jr. Was in Miami, and he came to visit Mr. Sir Lyndon O. Pindon at the time. Mr. Pindon was in his 20s at the time. He had already his father sent him off to England. And what I'm saying now is this is how Mr. Sir Lyndon Oscar Pindon got his respect and got his education. And at that time, when you would have gone to England and come back, you could be a lawyer, but once you would have touched base to England and come back, you have a different standard. And so he was able to galvanize not only the local, he was able to galvanize some of the corporate and make them understand that the commerce, education, in terms of wealth, in terms of wealth gap, commerce, education, and the stability of the over the hill people, it really has to change, which led to him going into Parliament, as you guys know, and telling the House Speaker at that time that the mace is supposed to be for the people, and the people are outside on the streets, and this is what the mace represents, which led him to throw in the mace on the street. And then we all know that led to 18 seats UBP, 18 seats PLP, and then they needed Mr. Folks to come along later on, which gave PLP that victory. But that in itself was a big, big time move, because after that, then we start scaling in terms of the black wealth in high end areas like Bay Street or the Over the Hill, and the implementation of jobs, ownership, Bahamian entrepreneurs, of course, him and himself inspiring more lawyers and so forth. Um, that's uh, but when we touch on that, of course, we're skipping over the 1945 and the 1905 periods. But that is, in effect, how that period would have affected us, which led UBP trying to keep that same kind of structure, and which led to the phenomenon of the PLP party.
So, how would you say that this has impacted our ability? When I say our, I'm talking about people of color, our ability um, to gain wealth and pass on a legacy of wealth to our children. How has that impacted us today?
Well, when we talk about, see, there's a cost for all of that.
Hmm.
There's a cost at the time of 1920, when we talk about just coming out of the Jim Crow and being implemented into a public school system, um, because even in 1920, for every dollar that was pumped into a black student, there was $5 to $8 pumped into a white student. And so the education gap, by a white male by the age of 25 was 50% more educated than a black child. Um, and of course, we know places, certain cities didn't even have that much black population at all. This is why when we talking about from an Alabama, South Carolina, North Carolina, the South. And so teachers who were black teachers, male, female, who had the ability to teach the black student that was on a 2,000 teacher, black teacher, and they had to teach 2 million black children. That scaled out from 1901 straight on to 1945. So the teacher who could have potentially made that wealth and put it back into his or her community didn't have that chance, be it the format of bias from the educational board, them losing their job, them being fired. And so what we have is um, the teachers who, the black teachers who were hired and who were in place at the time, this scaled out from 10, 20, 30 year all up to 1945. So that means the child is, the black child who's getting $1 um, invested in them because of the new act of implementing kids into the black kids and finally into the educational system. The investment, be it $1 per black child, there was still an investment of $5 to $8 for a white child. When we look at that that money loss right in there, then we equate that to the 6 million jobs that we supposed to have, meaning not just jobs, but businesses with me hiring my own staff. So that equates to about $15 trillion right there. So the diseducation in the diversement of funding into the education of the black versus the white child. How the black child turns out at the age of 25 versus the white child. The teachers that were scaled out of the educational system for whatever reason, that money not going back into the black teachers' pocket, take that not being take home to their community, and all of that we could equate that up to about $29 trillion. Um, that is a cost. See, because we can say, well, everyone has some intelligence into some aspect, and we can say, hey, well, that's been a long time ago, and well, see, a long time ago, and however far ago, way it was, we found that there's a bias and there's a subconscious or a conscious bias against Black people being implemented into the society where, we don't have time to go through the housing. We don't have time to go through the applications to study on lawyer firms sending out the same applications, just a Jamal or a Tamika, and the results coming back different than when you send out with a white person's name. Me trying to get an appraisal on my home. So all of those biases, there's a cost to it. Okay, my daughter's not getting applied, but as a Black mother or father, there's a cost to that. So this is what leaves us now 400 years later at 2.2% wealth. And this is from Canada to Cuba.
Okay, this is very eye-opening information that we are receiving today. And we're going to break this down. In essence, what we're saying here today is I want you to imagine that, it's 11:31. So I'm going to use that analogy on the other side of the break. Let's take this quick commercial break. And then when we come back, we're going to continue the conversation with Omar Sherief West. We're talking the black tax today, what it is, what it is not, and how it's still affecting us today. Stay with us. This is GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM.
Dress, hats off, looking like I walked out of catalog. Everybody wanna know where I got it from. Catwalk, boutique, where we make fashion statements. Catwalk, boutique, where we make fashion statements.
For the latest styles in women's clothing and accessories, visit Catwalk Boutique on Robertson Road East at the Helron Plaza. At Catwalk Boutique, we make fashion statements.
Boy, here calamity. Boy, don't want that be me. Let me get this coverage, do it once and for all. Insurance management is who I gonna call.
When calamity strikes, we're here to keep you safe and secure. With offices in Nassau, Freeport, Abaco, Lutheran, and Exuma. Insurance management, we cover the Bahamas.
At Lee Air, safety is our #1 priority. Flying since 1996, we offer scheduled flights into Fresh Creek and Mangrove Key Andros and Great Harbor Key, Berry Island, twice daily, 7 days a week. Affordable charter services are also available to anywhere in the Bahamas and the Caribbean. Lee Air Charter Services. Call 225-3267, 702-7127, or 322-1317 for reservations.
At the Shirley Street Plaza, you'll find Le Petit Gourmet, a small cafe that's big on flavor. Handcrafted delights made with love will not only please your palate, but feed your soul. Call us at 394-1251. 8 to 12 minutes is all it takes for a burglar to rob your home or business. Security Systems International provides professional and affordable solutions for both. Call 396-5000 for your customized quote. Gwen's Alterations provides professional services for all your tailoring needs, including face masks to keep you safe and in style. A stitch in time saves 9. So call us today at 393-6227.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Longevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
And we are back. Welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM. I'm your host, Michelle Malcolm, and my guest today is a young man by the name of Omar Sherief West. Yes, his parents were definitely a fan of the actor Omar Sherief, clearly. And he is here today talking to us about the black tax. And we're learning more about what it is and what it is not. I want to give you guys, I want to make what's the word I'm looking for? An example and an analogy of what this means. So imagine that you have a sprint race, right? And you've got all of your people lined up on the same line at the starting line. And you've got a white male, you've got a white female, you've got an Asian male, an Asian female, you've got a Latino male, a Latino female, and you've got an African male and an African female. And they're all on the starting line together. And then the person who is organizing the race says, before I, shoot the gun to start the race, everybody who has parents, both parents who attended college and are professionals, take 10 steps forward. And so you have, about 4 or 5 of them in that group taking 10 steps forward. Okay, everybody that has had an opportunity to get a college degree, take another 10 steps forward. And so all those people take 10 steps forward. Everybody whose parents were able to leave them a certain amount of money in the bank, you take 10 steps forward. And so you just keep going through all of these privileges, right? And then you say, okay, now we're going to start the race. Now, clearly some people, they all started on the same line, but clearly some people have had an opportunity to take 10, 20, maybe even 30 steps forward. Whereas other people on that line who did not have the same privilege are still back at the starting line. And now you say, okay, we're ready to start this race. On your mark, get set, go. Boom. Who you think will win? Who you think will win? I mean, not even Usain Bolt can run down. Or let's bring it home. Shawnee Miller can run down those people who got 50, 60, 70 steps ahead of her, and she's still back at the starting line because she didn't have the same privileges that they were granted. Not because they are any better than her, not because she's less deserving. These privileges were just given to them. So would you say that that's a good analogy, Omar, in terms of what we're talking about the black tax today, the fact that certain people are just born with more privileges than others, and it will ultimately or can ultimately affect their ability to keep up or even excel? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I would say that's very accurate.
And pull that microphone closer, man. You're still too far away from the
I
mic.
would say that's a very accurate analogy.
Yeah.
Because one of the things, we have to go through what every other minority goes through. When we are put in a minority program, it's supposed to address the minority. And this is one of the problems with Black women are finding today, is that she is put in the minority category. That category is board led by, it could be anything that is not a Black person. So now the minority is being funded from United States in private firms or whatever. But the minority does not mean the black, male and female. That could mean LGBTQ plus. That could mean everything under that umbrella. That could mean for the vegans or for a group of people. You know, so this is and so what is left out at the end of the day? They're saying we're in the minority group, and there's the funding that goes to this minority group. Is it being trickled down to the black families? No, and so this is why when we talk about implicit or explicit bias, um, when we talk about you may say, well, every bone in my body you know doesn't think about being racial or holding back from the black. The fact of the matter is the triggers. And there was a study done from Stanford and Chicago University where 75% of people would be triggered to be favorable to a white person than a black person, and this black person included. And so just the average person would be more triggered to favor a black person. And that means that there is a negative connotation that is a predictive behavior that we are destructive. So there's kind of that's like installed. So not only do you're going to favor another race more than you favor a black male or female, you have installed predictive behavior that would you believe I'm going to do just because of the color I am, which would lead to you either not hiring me, putting my resume to the side, putting my SATs to the side, my whatever it could be, my qualifications, but I am black versus a white. All of these, and there's a cost to that. And so we said, well, try harder. You know that there's 65% of white people say we're using that excuse too much. We're using that excuse too much, guys. It's been 400 years, and then you have a 66% clip who think that we have a better shot coming out of a 2.2% wealth gap than them. And when we go back to the women who are supposed to be in the minority, and them coming out of their era into independence and into getting education and same pay as man, all of these things rightfully so skilled, women's wealth isn't even up to 1%, black women. And so when we talk about this boiling pot of the minorities where all this funding is going to, it certainly isn't coming to us.
Wow. Yeah. So, here's the thing, though. People who enjoy privilege really don't get it when you say your privilege was an advantage to you, because they don't understand the privilege because that's all they've known. I'll use this as an example. Just recently, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle did an interview. And he has said it in other circles as well. But just recently, they did an interview with Oprah. Well, one of the things that he has talked about is the fact that he really didn't get racism prior to marrying Meghan Markle. He's like, racism? What are you talking about? He didn't get it because, quite frankly, he didn't have to get it. He wasn't exposed to it. It didn't affect his life until he married a woman of color. And then all of a sudden he realizes, wow, this is a real thing, because it's now a part of his life. And he now gets to see firsthand how people respond to somebody of color. He couldn't see it before because it was not his reality. Do you think that that is a major problem why we hear all the time, oh, just get over it? It's been 400 years and you're still talking about this? Just get over it. Why are you still trying to use that as an excuse? Do you think it's that they just don't get it because it has not been their reality? What are your thoughts on that?
I think what it has been is you call it the putting your foot on my neck or keeping your foot on my neck. Um, the fact of the matter is, we've just went through the numbers of putting your applications aside if you're a black person. There's a depression cost of that too. Um, when we see another race, and how they come into the Bahamas and how they survive. They how I'll use Kevin Hart for example. He's launched something where he owns his own show, and that example will show that if we as black people start to um, stream into that attitude of how we start a business, because I'll use Kevin Hart again. He owns the door. He owns the production side and the backstage side. So when he performs, everything comes to him. All royalties comes to him. And this is an example of how we can begin to come out of in terms of buy black, because we spend upwards of 1.6 billion a year in terms of what blacks spend. Christmas time, Thanksgiving, Super Tuesday, whatnot. But do we spend that on black-owned businesses? Do we hire persons? Do we deposit in black, and do we deposit in our black banks? There's black banks worth 4.6 billion out there. So there's ways that we can begin to start to get out of this. But once again, we choose to take our money, and we are free to spend it anywhere, and that also has a cost.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How does individual responsibility, how much does individual responsibility play into this? Because some could argue that, yeah, Omar, I hear what you're saying, right? But there are people who started at the same place as you on the starting line that y'all talking about, had the same, did not have the privileges that the others have the same challenges, but yet they were able to excel, yet they were able to attain wealth. So what's your excuse? How do you respond to that kind of argument?
I would say that a person probably doesn't know that we supposed to have 6 million jobs, and that's 6 million jobs and 4 million businesses with staff. So, and that's not a question. This is what we're supposed to have, and it's just not there. Why is it not there? Once again, proportion of wealth from the GDP when America and the Bahamas was established from the colonies, and that wealth that was 100% tax on a person's whatever he did for that owner at the time. So this is wealth that could have gone into that black worker for that slave or in his family's hand. All of this possibilities of this money going back to the black community and black teachers, and black student being undereducated as of 1920, the black teachers that were implemented into schools in the South and in the Bahamas, how they scaled out, and what black teachers make today. My mom, she is a teacher, Miss Melvern Davis. She didn't do very well, but she loved teaching, and so we um, we say, okay, stop complaining. We all have the same starting line, but there is a bias, and once again, an implicit and an explicit uh, factor that has taken place to the choices made of the black people that we say are out of slavery and in emancipation, and it can be treated equal, but we are not. We are separate, but we are not equal, which led to digging and entrenching that 100% tax on us. Um, and that 100% tax that digged, uh, mind you, we built off everything, but we didn't gain anything from it. And so that led to a devastating, like Miss Malcolm explained, the advantage from the starting line. That's where the wealth gap, I would say, come from. So there's the wealth gap, and there's the shops and the businesses that we just don't have.
Okay, this clip that I want to go to next is very long, and I want to say that at the outset that it is long. But I think that we should play it because it is so powerful and will help to bring bring it clearer as to what we're saying here today. And let me just set this up a bit. This it's been more than 55 years since civil rights activist, U.S. civil rights activist James Baldwin and founder of the conservative National Review, William F. Buckley Jr., met for an iconic debate on race. And that discussion and the lives of those two cultural giants are the subject of a book called The Fire is Upon Us by Nicholas Bukola. I hope that's how you pronounce his name. So PBS NewsHour in recent times did an interview with the author of that book about that iconic debate. And the fact that decades later, more than 55 years later, if you listen to the words that were spoken in this debate, they still resonate with us today. So guys, I know it's long, but let's go to that clip that I would have sent you guys from the Buckley debate. Do we have it ready? It's coming up? Okay, as I wait for our producers to let us know, he has his finger up, so that means it's coming any second now.
To add to we haven't got a chance to touch on in terms of why are y'all complaining, and if you look at the Homestead Act and then you bring that home here, when you could have stick your flag in the ground. Of course, remember that time.
Stick a pin in that. Stick a pin in that because is the clip ready?
Right.
Okay, let's stick a pin in that.
Right.
Technical issues with that. Let me know, guys, if you guys can get it, to play. Okay, so you might as well go to the thought that you had started to express.
Yeah, so to tie into what I mentioned a little earlier, the Homestead Act, which is the 40 acres and a mule. And when we look at what happened over here, where is if you had a title, became entitled, well, at that time, you just had to stay on the land for 5 years, and then it became yours. And so the land the acres that was distributed, once again, didn't necessarily go to the free black person. And the minimum rights that woman had, she would have had to find a husband or find someone of favor, which was more likely not a second woman. And so all of these things are led to us not having a home. So a home at that time with you and your wife could lead to up to $1 million. When you look at it from that time to now, and that is just wealth that is not in the black families.
That is crazy. That's crazy. All right. I'm being told the clip is ready. Again, I'm telling you up front, it's long. But this, keep in mind, was a debate that took place over 55 years ago. And yet, it's as if they are talking about life in 2021. Let's go to that clip.
It will mark 55 years since two of America's most influential intellectuals faced off in a debate in England at Cambridge University's debating society, the Cambridge Union. It was a debate about race, one that still fascinates and resonates today and is the subject of a new book. NewsHour Weekend Zachary Green has our story.
The trouble in America where the Negro community is concerned is a very complicated one.
It comes as a great shock to discover that the country, which is your birthplace and to which you owe your life and your identity, has not in its whole system of reality evolved any place for you.
On the evening of February 18th, 1965, two cultural giants, James Baldwin and William F. Buckley Jr., squared off in person for the first time. More than 50 years later, the debate still resonates. Political science professor Nicholas Buccola of Linfield College in Oregon was so taken with the skirmish that he wrote a book about it. The Fire is Upon Us.
It just seemed to me just such a dramatic moment and such an important one. These two movements that did so much to define 20th century political history, to have these two figures clashing was just irresistible.
Though Baldwin and Buckley were about the same age, their lives could not have begun more differently. Baldwin grew up in poverty in Harlem and went from waiting tables in New York's Greenwich Village to become a literary critic and eventually a renowned novelist and essayist. Buckley, a scion of wealth, graduated from Yale and became an influential magazine editor and columnist. Both wrote extensively about race in 1950s and 60s America, though from drastically different points of view. Buckley made his position clear in a 1957 National Review piece called Why the South Must Prevail, in which he contended that white Southerners are entitled to, quote, take such measures as are necessary to prevail politically and culturally over black citizens.
And Buckley says explicitly that they have this right and duty because they are, and this is a quote, for the time being, the advanced race. And he calls on people in the South, they have an obligation to promote the cultural equality of black people, and that eventually they need to allow them in to empower them with full citizenship.
What did Baldwin think was at the heart of the racial divide in America?
What Baldwin said from some of his earliest writings on this is that these people are scared. Their identity is wrapped up in this idea that their whiteness is what gives them their only source of moral worth in the world. It's what gives them value in the world. Baldwin says that is an extraordinarily sad moral life that person is leading. That is the thing they are clinging to give them a sense of meaning.
Buccola interviewed members of Cambridge University's debating society, the Cambridge Union, who were present at the 1965 debate. They said the union agreed to let Baldwin appear as part of a publicity tour for one of his books, as long as another guest challenged him on one of the themes of his writings. They ultimately invited Buckley, who accepted. The motion debated was this: the American dream is at the expense of the American Negro.
Good evening.
Baldwin starts his speech with this idea that we can't even begin reflecting on the moral and political questions at hand without first addressing this question of what is one's system of reality.
The Mississippi or the Alabama sheriff, who really does believe when he's facing a Negro boy or girl that this woman, this man, this child must be insane to attack the system to which he owes his entire identity. Of course, for such a person, the proposition of which we're trying to discuss here tonight does not exist.
There's this one kind of remarkable point in the speech where Baldwin suddenly shifts from speaking in the second person to speaking in the first person.
I am stating very seriously, and this is not an overstatement, that I picked the cotton, and I carried it to market, and I built the railroad under someone else's whip for nothing. For nothing.
What do you think his purpose was in making this shift?
Baldwin wants to call on everyone watching that debate to recognize that white supremacy is not something in the past, it's something that's central to all of our lives, and that we are all in some sense complicit in it, and we all have a responsibility to fight back against it. And he talks about the ways in which the moral lives of white people have been destroyed by this plague called color.
No matter what disaster overtakes them, they have one enormous knowledge and consolation, which is like a heavenly revelation. At least they are not black. Now, I suggest that of all the terrible things that can happen to a human being, that is one of the worst. I suggest that what has happened to white Southerners is in some ways, after all, much worse than what has happened to Negroes there.
When Baldwin ended his remarks, he received a standing ovation. Then it was Buckley's turn to take the floor.
It is impossible, in my judgment, to deal with the indictment of Mr. Baldwin unless one is prepared to deal with him as a white man.
This is a strange argument for many of us to hear, but here's what Buckley had in mind. For Buckley, part of the experience of being treated as a black person was to not have one's ideas taken seriously. And so Buckley's argument was that I will treat Baldwin as a white man, that for Buckley that meant I will take his ideas seriously, and I will call him out for the ideas that I think are dangerous.
Buckley went on to describe what he saw as the causes of racial inequality in America.
One is the dreadful efforts to perpetuate discrimination by many individual American citizens as a result of their lack of that final and ultimate concern which some people are truly trying to agitate the other, is as a result of the failure of the Negro community itself to make certain exertions which were made by other minority groups during the American experience.
Buckley is very careful to say there are individual white people. So it's not a collective problem. There are some bad apples out there, and that needs to be addressed. But then he says, really, the central problem is that African Americans aren't taking advantage of the opportunities that are available to them.
At the time of the debate in early 1965, the Voting Rights Act had not yet passed, and black people in the South still faced enormous barriers at the ballot box. At one point during Buckley's remarks, an American audience member interjected.
One thing you might do, Mr. Buckley, is let them vote in Mississippi.
I think actually what is wrong in Mississippi, sir, is not that not enough Negroes are voting, but that too many white people are voting.
The audience laughs, but Buckley is deadly serious about this. He's still supporting disenfranchisement of black people, but he's saying I'll also disenfranchise some white people and leave only a white elite to control the situation in the South. And he's using things like this idea of colorblind constitutionalism as a way to kind of hollow out the accomplishments of the civil rights movement.
At the end of the debate, a vote was taken to determine the winner. Baldwin received 544 votes, Buckley just 164. But Buckley was far from discouraged.
He says, I am so proud of my performance that night because I did not give them 1 inch. That really captures his creed in a very short slogan, right?
In Bucola's final analysis, the divide between Baldwin and Buckley is reflective of the political divide facing Americans even today.
To be a patriot for Buckley meant standing up for the institutions and ideas that you take to be central to the American political experiment, and he viewed his role throughout his life as being somebody who would be a guardian of those ideals against ideas and institutions and groups that he thought were threatening to those ideals. Baldwin says that patriotism requires a constant criticism, a constant reflection on the ways in which we're falling short of our ideals. And to love one's country means that we have to do that together. It's the foundation of morally how we ought to behave, how we ought to live together, and it's the foundation politically of what we need to do as a country to move closer to justice.
Wow. I highly recommend that you go to YouTube, where you will be able to find the debate in its entirety. All you have to do is type in Buckley debate, and it will come up. And as you watch that debate, keep in mind that that took place in 1965, and yet still resonates with us today in 2021. And I was really moved when we heard, I built the railroads for nothing. Because I think that, Omar, I think that people who hear this debate, who are privileged, don't seem to be able to make the connection that they are standing on the benefits of free labor. They are standing, their parents and grandparents were able to benefit, and they are still today taking advantage of those benefits from somebody else's free labor. And, you know, I until you can get to that understanding and admit that, then there's always going to be a pushback. Oh, well, you know, y'all just need to get over it because that was 400 years ago and y'all still belly aching about the same thing. But no, you still benefiting from that privilege. What are your thoughts on that, Omar?
I think that clip, I will be watching that.
Yeah. Oh, you have to pull the mic. You really got to pull this mic closer to you, because we're not hearing you well enough.
Great.
You have to go and watch that. Go to YouTube and type in the Buckley debate or Buckley debate, and the debate in its entirety will come up. But go ahead. Let's hear from you.
Yes. What I would say is it's a topic that it lends, like, why are you guys keep complaining? When you talk about 1965, we talk about the fact that at that time there were farmers who thought that we should have more educated black students into the black education system, which will give them a chance to be the good workers that we need to expand on our farm and our factories to, of course, give more cotton. And at this time, cotton was a very big thing. So the 100% tax, that digged a whole lot out of what could have been, or the cost that would have gone back into black families for their 40 acres and a mule. And had they branched off from that and did something with that with their generation and on and on. And so the privilege, there is a privilege, but then there is a direct neglect. And the direct neglect comes from separate but equal. And it comes from the other races. So an Asian and Hispanic or a Islamic Arab person may be in office taking on applications, knowing that their boss may be a color race of white. They know that they have several applications coming in, and they know that their boss experienced with dealing or hiring or even interviewing black people. So now the bias is from the office, from the interview, and from the rail of files, be it black or black American or Bahamian. And so there's a stigma that you won't be hired, and then there's the data that tells you you won't be hired, you won't be picked, you'd be overlooked. We call it over here who you know. So that who you know has gone to the people, as far as people who don't even believe that they're putting their foot down on us, but you're actually putting your foot down on us because you're taking advantage of what your ancestors have left for you and the connections that they left. And the other people who are left out, then we are the ones that are, hurting very much, very poor. And this, I think, this is very dangerous. This now we getting into, people who don't know how to deal with depression on a Friday, who deal with it with alcohol or drugs, and instead of finding help, getting yourself in an Alcohol Anonymous or medical, and so this has also a negative, not just the cost that we don't have anymore. This also has the negative effect inside that ghetto community, which I think is very dangerous. And you talk about what we don't have and I can't get and why, and then all of that anxiety and everything, all of the negativity picks up in there.
Yeah. All right. We have to take a quick break. Got to make way for our sponsors. And then when we come back on the other side, we're going to be talking about another form of black tax. And this is a black tax that has been imposed by blacks on blacks very prevalent, especially in Africa. We're going to talk about that on the other side of the break. Stay with us. This is GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM.
I must say, I gotta watch
Located on Carmichael Road, Divine Designs Hair Boutique is a haven for women and men looking for professional beauty services. Our state-of-the-art and contemporary equipment creates a relaxing ambiance for you to enjoy while we cater to you. Need a hairstylist? We cater to all types and textures of hair for care and styling. We even have a barber on duty. Need a nail tech? Our technicians provide a range of nail services, including the latest trends. Unwind in one of our massage chairs while you get your pedicure. With our reasonable rates, friendly staff, and over 20 years of experience, you will be in great hands. Call us at 823-1669 or 698-1025 to schedule your appointment. Want to be pampered? Want to be slayed? Let Divine Designs make your day.
Looking for an extraordinary junior high school with caring, qualified staff and affordable tuition? Then come visit us at Elite School of Excellence, an affiliate of First Step Academy. ABECA-focused and Ministry of Education approved, we foster discipline, integrity, and wisdom while molding our students for success. Call us at 341-8846 or stop by First Step Academy Schools on Fire Trail and Soldy Roads for more information.
Executive Printers is your one-stop shop for all your branding and customization needs. Letterheads, envelopes, business cards, invoices, share and gift certificates, rubber stamps, vouchers, funeral programs, brochures, flyers, banners, and promotional items like mugs, water bottles, mouse pads, and key rings, all with personable service and great quality. No project is too small or too large. For great turnaround and competitive pricing, make an executive decision. Call us at 393-5011.
Escape from the city life to Bacon Air Beach Resort in Pirateswell, Mayaguana. Relax in one of 16 air-conditioned rooms just steps away from the ocean. Enjoy scrumptious dishes in our waterfront dining room. Sip on a tropical cocktail, or if you must, stay connected with wireless internet. Nestled on one of the most beautiful beaches in the Bahamas, Bacon Air Beach Resort offers a unique vacation experience. For reservations, call 339-3726 or 463-0182.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 Hyperimmune Egg Powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
And welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM. I'm your host, Michelle Malcolm, and today we're talking the black tax. My guest is a young man by the name of Omar Sherief West, and we are trying to break this down as to what is and is not the black tax and how it is impacting us today, and quite frankly, what we need to do about it. Because it's not just enough to talk about its existence, but we really need to spend some time, and will spend some time in this show talking about what do we do about the problem. Now, prior to the break, I had mentioned that there is another form of what is called the black tax. This one, not imposed by the whites or a system, but imposed by blacks upon themselves. And this is very prevalent in the African community. And this form of the black tax is when young black professionals are expected to use their resources to reach back and pull up their families with them, thereby making it difficult for them to advance, because everything that they earn, everything that they make goes back into trying to pull their family up with them. And so this is another form of what is called the black tax. And just recently, Trevor Noah, who you may know as the comedian and late night show host, but he's also from South Africa. And recently he sat down with Oprah to talk about the African black tax. Let's take a listen to that clip.
And essentially, that's what in many ways the black tax is that the first generation of success for many, and essentially that's what in many ways the black tax is that the first generation of success for many black people means you now have to go back and work on correcting everything. I have to get my brothers through school, I have to get my family through school, I have to get my younger cousins through. And essentially that's what in many ways the black tax is that the first generation of success for many black people means you now have to go back and work on correcting everything. I have to get my brothers through school, I have to get my family through school, I have to get my younger cousins through school, I have to get it. Because you are the first of an entire family to experience that success. And the greatest gift my mother gave me, and she always said it was, my son, I may not be able to give you 1 cent in this world, but I promise you I will not give you the black tax. That's the one thing I'll keep from you. I will handle it. You go and fly in the world.
But you know, it's so interesting because one of my girls, Mahal, stand up, hey, Mahal. Hi. Well, it's one of my daughters from South Africa. And I say this to the girls all the time, that that's going to be the greatest burden unless you free it from yourself.
Right.
That you get to decide what that tax should be.
Right.
Nobody else gets to tell you, because just the fact that you can free yourself, that is what your ancestors would have wanted for you.
There's also a guilt attached with it. You know, and that's something my mother learned the hard way is she had to go on a journey where she left the family because she realized she needed to build before she could give back.
Yeah.
And sometimes as human beings, we exist in a space, and this is beyond race, where we have people who need from us and we haven't built for ourselves yet. And you cannot give what you do not have. And so sometimes you have to build
Trevor's
for yourself.
going to preach now.
It's true though, you cannot give what you do not have.
Preach, Trevor, preach.
And
That
so
is so true.
You know, if you build it for yourself first, then you can give it to others.
So powerful there. But yeah, he's right. Listen, that is a very real thing. And it used to be that way in the Bahamas. I don't know if it still is. But if you the first one to make it up there, you best believe it's your responsibility to try to reach back and pull your family up with you. Now, what we're seeing happening in this Bahamas a lot today is where we have some who have gotten and achieved great success, but instead of reaching back and trying to pull people up with them, they pull the ladder up with them so nobody else could get up to where they are. But this black tax imposed by blacks on themselves used to be a very real thing in the Bahamas. I don't know if it still is. What are your thoughts on that? And what he said in terms of you have to first have something before you can, help somebody else. But this has been, I want to hear your thoughts on that, because this has been another way that has hindered the progress of people of color, because every bit that they had, they're trying to lift others up with them. And this is not something that the white community suffers from, because quite frankly, in part because of the many privileges that they have been given, they leave a legacy for their children.
Yes.
Whereas with people of color, the children are expected to uplift. What are your thoughts on that?
I actually came across some data on that, and it's from a very wonderful lady, Shahrazad Ali.
Mm-hmm.
She spoke about, what does expression mean? And expression means how much money do I have? That's as far as we remember the gold stamp, and how gold was used against the U.S. dollar at the time. Uh, what you have, meaning wealth, or wealth equated to land, and land would then equate to generational wealth, or me leaving something for my kids. That just is not that is not there for the Black family. Um, so we all know expression is moving and shaking. Not I can save $5,000 by the end of the year, and then I can buy my car. Wealth leads to decision making, and which leads to power. So power is in how much wealth that I have, and I think that is very important. Um, when we talk about expression, because the only way I can express myself to my son is saying, like that mother said, she won't leave her son with black tax. Well, I need to tell my son, I can leave you with some land that was given to me by the rightful acreage and my rightful reward for me helping to build this country. But it's not there for me to give you. So my power is not in nothing. My words are here and hope, but I do not have nothing to express, which is power, to my son.
Yeah, I hear that.
Mhm.
But again, I go back to the question of personal responsibility. Do we now throw up our hands in the air and say, well, we're starting at a disadvantage, so there's nothing we could do. We could never win this race, so I'm just not even going to try? Is that what you're suggesting?
I think individualism is a very big part of that. And what we supposed to have after the civil rights is a portion of the corporate at that time America would have been the introduction of the black male, and we saw that with the Title IX and everything, the movement. What happened is the white mothers who thought they were being oppressed, same scale of qualifications for job, for pay, and everything. Women fought very hard for that. The problem is now black mothers were married at an 83% clip in 1950. And so that changed after that civil rights movement and the Title IX, because now individualism came in. So this is another way to spread us apart as a people. So now you have some women who are into I'm going to stay single, Sex in the City, I'm going to get my career, and I'm going to come back. And what that did was that said that we really don't need the black male, because I can really make it on my own and come back at 30 after I established myself. And individualism on the male and the black female, which led to that divide. So now what you don't have is the 1850 data that says that black families are married at an 83% clip, even though they were very young married. We were married, meaning you're building. And so if you're not building, and if you're more individualized up to today, then this is where we have it's impossible for us to speak as a people or express as a people when everyone is individualized.
That's an interesting concept. That sounds like another show, though. All right, let me read a couple of your Facebook comments. And by the way, the number to call is 828-3543. 828-3543 is the number to call. And the text line is 828-2543. 828-2543 is the text line if you want to send us a text. But if you want to call in and ask Mr. West a question, that number again is 828-3543. 828-3543. So let's go to a couple of your Facebook comments. Amanda says, trying to get it to come up, guys. Bob Marley said, emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Kevin Hart is a prime example of being able to emancipate ourselves. Let's move forward in freeing our minds and making a positive change in our way of thinking. Now, clearly, mindset is crucial to this conversation. So, Amanda's absolutely right when she talks about freeing our minds, because in spite of all of the obvious reasons that we have presented on this show today, bottom line is if you are still enslaved in your mind, then you will always be enslaved. No matter how much reparations are paid, if you're still a slave when you receive those reparations, you're still going to be a slave after you don't spend the money you get from those reparations. So it's really all about freeing your mind and ensuring that you have the right mindset. That being said, I understand that in many ways your mind has been conditioned not to be free, but you got to find a way to break free of that. You have to first identify that it's a problem, acknowledge that it's a problem, and then find a way to break free of that mindset. Would you agree, Omar, or disagree?
Yes, I would agree because when I did the research, at the end of it, I realized that I needed streams of income in order to come out of it. I needed more than one, and so I had to get back in the education. Work on myself. What do I love, and am I around a community of people who love what I love, what I'm learning, what I'm educated in, and what am I going to more classes in? Am I valuing the time that the people who are valuing the same thing that I'm valuing in my growth? You spend money on your education. You have to better yourself, and so that now I can express myself when I gain my income, get my small business. I start to build my portfolio, and so at the end of the day, like I said, they're expecting you to just don't complain. They're expecting, especially the black male, we are the providers, we protect the black woman, and they're expecting us not to complain and just do.
Okay. I want to go back to the Facebook comments for a moment. Let's see. Lily says, just give me a second here. Lily says, this was powerful by Buckley. Numbers don't lie. We are still in the slavery mentality, 2021, white privilege. She also goes on to say, like selling our generational property back to the future being. I'm not sure what she means by that. Okay, Tara says, Shahrazar Ali isn't a good reference. Go research how she allegedly stole from black women. We can't retreat. Okay.
Interesting.
All right. And Amanda says, amen, Michelle. Amen. I have heard about the colonial mentality. It seems that some of our people have copied that mentality and used it against their own black people. Yeah, we do still have the house Negro mindset that I better than y'all because I in the house. And so I got to do what I got to do to protect my position in this house. Whether that means helping to keep you down, then that's what I got to do to protect my position in this house. And we unfortunately still see that happening today. And some of these house Negroes dress up in suit. So the unfortunate remnants of slavery still continue to be a problem for us today in 2021. And I think on the other side of this break, we're going to talk about what we can do to overcome this problem. Because I think that we have to be wise enough to realize that, okay, if they bring you a lemon, as opposed to sitting there crying about how sour that lemon is, take that lemon and make some lemonade. Take what you have in your hand and turn it into something more. That's what we have to do. This is what many in our race did through generations just to survive. And so now we have to take that innate knowledge, that innate ability to take something from nothing and turn it into something great, to turn our financial situations around, to turn our wealth situations around. We can't sit back and complain that the lemon is sour. Because, newsflash, nobody else is looking to fix the problem. Nobody's coming to rescue you. Okay? We all grew up reading the fairy tales about the knight in shining armor who came to, no, ain't no knight in shining armor coming to rescue you. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you got to figure out how to pull yourself up out of this situation. And how do we do that? Considering all of what we have discussed today, considering all of what has been stacked against you, how do you break through that and turn your situation around? We're going to be talking about that on the other side of the break. Stay with us. This is GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM.
Ocean blue is the best in seafood. Hey, hey. Fresh out the water and affordable too. We got fish, conch, lobster, shrimp, everything you want. Ocean blue got it. Ocean blue friendly, clean, best service you ever seen. Ocean blue is the best in seafood. Hey, fresh out the water and affordable too. Hey, ocean blue seafood, we are here for you. Ocean blue seafood, no one else will do. Ocean Blue Seafood, located on Bernard Road. Contact us at 393-2160.
Want to look your best and feel even better? Visit JD Edwards Salon and Spa for the ultimate beauty, body, and anti-aging treatments, offering custom colors, haircuts, vegan anti-freeze treatments, silk blowouts, natural and acrylic nails, unisex pedicures, facials and massages, all waxing services, and microcurrent therapies for anti-aging and body sculpting. JD Edwards Salon and Spa, Palmdale Shopping Plaza, Madeira Street, telephone 326-7863.
For moms-to-be and your little ones, there's Baby Bliss, the baby shower specialist, with the best selection of shower gifts, care items, and gender reveal rentals. At Baby Bliss, we carry only the finest brands to comfort mother and baby. From preemie to 24 months, we are truly the ultimate baby store. Mimi is a new tradition in ladies apparel, featuring fabulous fashions, sizes small to 3X. Look like you just stepped off the runway with trending, stylish selections that bring out the fashionista in you. Making a statement is easy when you shop at Mimi. Visit us both at the Mackey Street Plaza.
For all your building needs, it's Carib Construction and Project Management on Gladstone Road. We build it all: schools, homes, hotels, and more, including structures requiring a Phase 3 electrical contractor. We also provide project management services. The first step towards your dream building begins at Carib Construction and Project Management. Call us at 376-1556 or 341-4466.
Your body's immune system is under constant pressure from things like stress, lack of exercise, and toxins in the environment. It's crucial to be proactive and support your immune system with the nutrients it needs to function effectively. But it's often hard to get these nutrients from food alone. Introducing fast-acting Zinc Plus Immune Support by Longevity. Unlike zinc-only supplements, Zinc Plus Immune Support builds on the proven power of zinc and adds complementary nutrients to give your immune system extra support. Vitamin D helps balance the effects of zinc, while our proprietary blend of natural fruit and root extracts provides the extra help your immune system needs to work against daily stressors. And we've included Longevity's exclusive plant-derived minerals to give your body the minerals it needs, but can't get from food alone. And because Zinc Plus Immune Support is delivered in a great-tasting, sugar-free, berry-flavored lozenge, it encourages quicker absorption of all these nutrients into your body. Zinc Plus Immune Support. Zinc plus the extra support your body needs to promote a healthy immune system. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
And welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM. I'm your host, Michelle Malcolm, and my guest today is Omar Sherief West, and we're talking the black tax. And we spent the first hour and a half talking about, identifying what this means for people of color, whether in the United States, the Bahamas, and Africa, what the black tax means. And bottom line is, it all points back to the same thing: hindering or limiting your ability to excel as a person of color. Well, what do we do about this? It's not enough for us to talk about the problem, identify what the problem is, but now we got to figure out, okay, how do we stop this? How do we turn this around? Because we cannot continue, and I dare say that the divide between the haves and the have-nots is getting wider and wider and wider, and we're seeing now more and more people, thanks to this pandemic, many people who were, holding their own in the middle class and doing for themselves and working their way up now have found themselves in a position of destitution. I mean, just, jobs gone and homes lost and living in cars. So even more of our people now are suffering, you know, serious degradation from a financial perspective. So now, what do we do to turn this ship around? That is the question that I'm putting to you, Omar. What are some of the things that we can do to try to turn this around?
Well, we have to first, of course, being the people who put our leaders in place, we have to look to our leaders. And we've seen recently some of the ideas that have come out from individual, independent, and the actual leaders of this country.
Mm-hmm.
I would look forward to more conferences in terms of how do we in-spend? How do we in-spend, in-deposit? And I go back to the example of Mr. Kevin Hart. You have to reinvent yourself. If 10 small businesses took a dive because of pandemic, then those 10 families can still make a super business out of their portfolio. One super business out of 10 families, now you're hiring upwards of 3,000 people. Then you're going to deposit into the overhead. This is a big time financial effect because you're hiring persons and you're depositing and you're investing back in them. Those hired staff are going to take money back to the community. And when we talk about Black-owned banks, if you are a Black owner of a bank, this is another idea that we need to conference around. And how are we going to become Black owners of giving loans, giving accounts, giving savings accounts, the prospect of getting a credit higher than it is, and the prospect of in the lending phase, we all know the surpluses of a GDP and a dollar and a stature of your company after that. So we've heard of the sovereign fund, and we've heard of the natural resources idea. And I think there's of course, people in the comments, and they can call in, and people who want to give in ideas as well. But those are some of the things that I'd say we can jump into now and start affecting our wealth.
How important is it from an individual perspective to embrace the concept of creating multiple streams of income?
Some people will say, well, okay, I've inherited what I have. I think my parents work hard for it, and I don't want to divert it to outside people outside of my family. And you have the right to have that stance. But when we talk about the overall peoples, the GDP and the stance of where you is in terms of the power of your expression per dollar you have, that it won't affect us in growth. So you would have your empire of your family's last name growing because of the potential that which you would leave. But on a people scale, what that is doing, that is leading to more individual. I'm closing my wall off, my high wall, 8 feet wall, and my royalty guard gate to my yard. And I have everything in there I need, and I don't care for the next neighbor. That mentality, that is where what we thought was civil rights has become that individual mentality, which would lead to us being, I got my individual business, even though it failed in the pandemic. I'm going to be so staunchly in my individualism that I'm not willing to work with 10 other families who closed down. And that mentality is dangerous.
Okay. So again, I hear what you're saying, and that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I go back to the question about multiple streams of income.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that a part of the problem is that people believe that having a job equals, I'm trying to find a good way to put this. As long as I get a job, then I'm good. as long as my child gets a job, then my child is good. I heard on the show prior to this with Adrian Francis, I'm talking about, I think it was one of the callers who said, why are you training my children to look for a job as opposed to owning their own piece of the pie? And so we have been misled to believe that the job is the answer to our economic concerns. When truth be told, somebody says job just stands for just over broke, because when all you have is a job, all you're doing is helping to make somebody else wealthy.
Yes.
And so what I'm getting at with this question is, how important is it for us to identify means by which we move beyond the job towards ownership through multiple streams of income? In other words, let's look at what is happening with the job market, or what has happened with the job market as a result of COVID. You had a good job. You were able to make your payments. You were able to do everything you needed to do. And then bam, the economy is shut down. And because you had all your eggs in that one basket, now you're in trouble. So how important is it for us to identify multiple streams of income? In other words, you're making money while you're sleeping, so that you're not subject to the uncertainty of job security, because there is no security in job security.
With that, I think you have to have a new mindset of risk. So you might say, well, what is risk? Risk is a percentage of your savings from your day job, because you presume you only have one job, and that can't do it. So
some people have 2 and 3 jobs and still can't. It's not working.
So risk meaning, how do I invest in myself, or how do I invest in phenomenons? I see people buying gold coins, silver coins. Right now, I teach about cryptocurrency, and some of my clients have like 2 to 3 streams of income. And for the sake of this show, cryptocurrency is only a way of one stream of income. But what you need to be able to do is to say to yourself, I'm gonna have some money for me working overnight, and then when that money appreciates or interest comes off the top of it, I'm gonna now proportion that and invest that into another investment. And so this means 3 to 4 to 5 streams of income. I think as an individual, especially for males, Black males out there, I think you need to be prepared to risk. So I'm going to take some of my savings and I am going to invest that. Whether it means you investing in yourself, because most of our males, we believe that if you don't make it to the NBA, then I'm going to be a rapper. It's not necessarily, that is not necessarily the way. What you could do is you could just be the video editor for a rapper, or you can just be the sound production person for a rapper. You still make good money, you still make good wealth, but everyone has this aspiration to be either I'm gonna be a rock star or I'm not, in terms of Black males, and that's not gonna equate to wealth, because once again, all of his diluted funds is going to go into the record company that is going to try to swing him. And so we're going back into the individualism mindset. So once I start to get my portfolio up, and I have more now than like 2 to 3 to 4 streams of income, what that's going to do for me is I'm going to start hiring. I'm going to start hiring, and I'm going to make my overhead based on investing into them, which is going to make the business get bigger and hire more people. And basically, I'm going to have the LLC, I'm going to have the business license, I'm going to have everything done in my name, my bank account led to my business. And this is how you get an ebook, learn how to make a small course online in the areas that you're teaching in. Or you may be a cook or a baker. This is why I mentioned earlier, what is the type of crowd that you're hanging around and the skills that you have? Are you hanging around that type of where you all can be a boiling pot of growth in that area with of what your skill is? Are you doing that? And are you going to school to improve that skill? And so now you can be, for an example, Kevin Hart, where you can now hire and hire, and now you deposit, you get persons, and you enhance that brand, which is you, and then these people under you will be enhanced brands as well.
But you know what? Some people don't have the resources to pay to go to school. But I always believe that where there's a will, there's a way, because there's such a thing called the University of YouTube, where you can pretty much go to learn anything you want to learn
Right.
there on YouTube. And so instead of using up your data to play games, to waste time, to send a bunch of memes, to send a bunch of jokes, how about using that time to learn a new skill if need be, or to learn how to improve a skill that you already have, to translate that into a stream of income? I think this is how people need to start thinking. We need to start thinking beyond, I'm looking for a job, I'm looking for a job, I'm looking for a job. We need to move away from that towards, I'm looking for a way to become an owner of something. I'm looking for a way to become a boss of something. Because I'm telling you, until you get to that point, you're gonna have to work until the day you die. Warren Buffett said, unless you find a way to make money while you sleep, you will have to work until the day you die. And so you have to find a source of income, another means by which it don't matter what they try to do against you with the black tax. You got to show them that you're smarter than that. That you know, and especially in this country where in our situation, it's more than just a color thing, but it's a class thing. So we've got this elite class that believe that they have a right to stay there and will go so far as to try to sabotage you if they feel that you don't have a right to come up. So you now have to think smarter than they do. You have to show them, okay, I'm not reliant on your job. I'm not going to rely on your job in order for me to advance myself in this world. And nowadays, we are so fortunate in that there are so many opportunities that are available online that you don't have to be stuck with what is being presented to you here and, think that that's all you have to offer. You can now reach the world. What are your thoughts, Omar?
Yes, I think I see a lot of young people doing so. A lot of the pandemic has brought out a lot of subjective skills in kids, art and crafts and home around the yard. And the amazing thing is, what are the parents doing? Are the parents branding their kids? Are the parents starting to instrument in a professional way how they can present their kids' talent? And I'm sure some of them are saying, well, why didn't I do this? And their kids are now doing it. So I think brand. What is your brand? How do you brand yourself? How do you make yourself eligible to give a copyright strike on someone? Because that is what you're going to be moving around with when you call yourself a professional. And we have to be prepared to. I know there's a lot of video creators. There's a lot of content creators. There's a even if all you do is gaming, you can sell your gaming and the way you play your gaming online and make money from it. Are you doing that, or are you just playing games? So there are channels right now where people have people following them while they master a game that some video gamers are playing, and you have to pay this content creator for uploading his screen to give people this entertainment or teaching them how to pass the level. So That's called, okay, I got a game, PlayStation 5 home. I'm going to implement my brand in here and give content to the people who want it, and they will pay for it.
And quite frankly, they don't care where you locate it, as long as you're giving them the knowledge that they want to have, correct?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, I want to go to one more comment from our Facebook viewers. This one is from Lisa. Lisa says, some people think that a job is the foundation to stability. It's a start, but it is not. One has to have a vision of what they want and how and what are they going to do to execute this plan. If one does not plan to succeed, then one has already planned to fail. Well, planning is key in all of this. You have to plan. Pastor Miles Monroe always used to say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And so how important is it then for someone to take advice from someone like yourself or someone else who can sort of guide them through the minefield of how to execute a plan to move towards creating multiple streams of income so that you eventually get to financial freedom?
Well, one of the things for me, I realized that I work with some wonderful people. I'm fortunate for that. But, a pandemic affected that. And so because I was always a go-getter, I realized that even being a go-getter, that's not going to get me enough. That's when I was introduced to Bitcoin. And what I did is I got mentors who's going to mentor me through something that I like and something that I believe could be fruitful to me. Now, today, moving up past all the training and going through the session and signing up for the Patreons to these people and all of that, I am now making quite a bit of money, I would say, through my Bitcoin wallets. I have clients that I am teaching about wallet security, of course, and the multiple streams of income that they can have in their wallets for cryptocurrency. Now, cryptocurrency is something that I would use this example. It's like BTC's minutes, and I can send you minutes. All you would need to do is for me to have your number. And so when I'm sending you Bitcoin or when I'm sending you $10,000 in cash in Bitcoin to you, there's no third party, there's no government, there's no IRS, you're not audited. And so all of this transaction and all of this opportunity, if I were to buy a coin that came out last week and the coin's worth is $1, and by the end of this month, the coin's worth goes to 1,000, then that phenomenon is me taking the risk of buying that coin at $1. And so, or you can look into the buying shares into the like how it was for R&D cinemas. You can look into buying shares and watch the shares grow, get accruals weekly, or you can look into something like buying what I do right now, which is buying per square feet land. And so you can buy per square feet land, and what you're doing is you're renting it for a certain amount of time that your money is locked into. And when a family or an individual rents such property or goes on such vacation, and your square feet is included in what they abide for, now you're getting rent. And even if you don't get standard rent for the actual person that is in that building or on that premises, you're still getting standard accruals every day because you own property. And so there's many ways like you can hold an asset or hold an equity, and for you holding an equity, you can get percentage back daily. And so there's a lot of creative ways where you can you can have your money working for you. And I'm talking about just 10% off of my day job, 10%. And every week I get paid Friday, I save 10%. And at the end of that month, I take that combined 40% and I now invest that. And I could now turn that 40%, which I had saved at 10%, now 40, and invested that in a month's time. I can now make that work for me and not only turn that over, have that sitting on an interest, have that proportion and spread it out to 2 or more investment contracts. So now what ends up happening is You have money in your sleep. You have a number of different investments coming in on a accurate daily or weekly, and you'd start to see, okay, now I'll be able to pay for this, that, the next, and you'd be able to, the risk that you take, you'd be able to see the fruitfulness of it. Um, Most of my clients now, they are very happy. And of course, I spoke to you about it, getting into your wallet and your wallet security. So whenever you're ready, Miss Malcolm, we get into that. People are very happy right now, and people are very sad that they didn't get into this earlier.
I've heard that, yeah.
You talk about Ripple, we talk about Bitcoin, we talk about getting involved in content creation, because now you can finally make your content, and you can make a coin and attach your content to the coin, and when they watch it, their currency will go up. So there's many and then nobody can steal that from you, or they get a strike immediately, and plus your content is an asset, so why would someone want to steal that? So there's many ways we can look into how this internet of money and fintech has helped me, some of my clients, and others.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many opportunities nowadays to be creative and to understand that you don't have to be limited to the 9 to 5. I mean, that what he talked about with the Bitcoin, that's just one example. There are many others out there. I mean, even my work as a health coach, many of my clients are outside of this country. Because of the power of the internet, I'm able to do a consultation with somebody across the world, do a live call using one of the platforms like Zoom, and that's how it's working. It's not depending on what's happening in your country, in your neighborhood, in your island, but the world literally is your client base, the entire world. And if you start to think along those lines, then you will understand that the possibilities are endless, and you do not have to be limited to being held back by the black tax. Because if we sit back and we wait for the answer to be given to us, for the reparations to come, you will be waiting from now till kingdom come. It ain't gonna happen. Now, things we've discussed on the show need to happen, like the Sovereign Wealth Fund. Yes, that needs to happen. But you can't sit back and wait for that. You can't sit back and say, okay, I'm waiting for this grouping to come in so I can get my check. You can't wait for that. You have to decide that you're going to take what you have in your hand, no matter how big, no matter how small, and find a way to monetize that. I'm telling you, it can be done. And if you figure you don't know how to do it, call a professional or go to YouTube. Lots of videos available out there for people who can't afford to hire somebody.
That's what I did.
But there's no excuse. There's no excuse. We only got 2 minutes left in the show. Omar, give us your final thoughts, please.
My final thought is get a health coach, get a structure coach. Your belief system has to be intact first before you can say you can brandish off into anything. Sign up to Patreon. So don't be afraid to pay for help in the area that you want to improve in. Because that is investing in yourself, and then you'll be able to invest in others and pull others up, like we talk about in this show. Because it's not for me to be the best individual and separate myself from you all. It's for us to be good individuals in a boiling pot of investing in ourselves as a black capital.
That is a powerful note to end on. Omar, thank you so much for agreeing to do the show with me today. I think we had some good nuggets presented here, and my hope is that those listening will be able to take something away from it to help to improve their lives and get from under this black tax that's holding us back. Because I'm sorry, y'all, the knight in shining armor ain't coming.
I am honored.
So
thank you again.
Thank you, Omar, for being a part of the show today. That's going to do it, guys, for this episode of GPS Global Paradigm Shift. Tomorrow is Wednesday, so you know that means it's going to be a Wellness Wednesday show. We're going to be talking about matters as it relates to your health and well-being. And then on Thursday, I'm so excited that she's agreed. My guest will be Loretta Butler Turner is going to be on the show on Thursday. Yes, it's going to be good. So looking forward to the next couple of days of shows. I'm Michelle Malcolm. Thank you so much for joining me here on GPS. Have a good afternoon, everyone.